What is up, everyone? Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Game Cast. I am one of your hosts, Kenny, and with me is Tess,
Hello, everyone.
and we are back with another awesome episode. I believe it's episode 46. I got the count right this time. And yeah,
What?
we said we would give you a week to watch Coming to America. We know it just coming out or just came out on the app, Prime. And we were like, you know what? We're not going to spoil anything. We're just going to wait. I did a little brief whatever about the film. But this week, we're actually going to be talking a little bit more in depth. We're not going to spoil the ending, obviously, but
Why not?
we will talk, well, because we want people to listen. we will we will talk about aspects of like different scenes. So scenes will be spoiled, and actors and maybe some cameos will be spoiled, but we won't spoil the ending. But before we get to that, we have a bunch of stuff to talk about because it's been interesting. It's been interesting.
Yeah.
Um, Interesting week for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've been watching some new anime. Well, actually, I don't know if this is new because I found out because everyone was talking about it. But the Jujutsu Kaisen, I think that's what it's called. Pretty dope anime. I binged all of it this week, and I've been watching Baruto, which has finally gotten good. And when I mean good, I mean like really good. Like this, there's no more fillers. Good. People are dying, and so the stakes are high. And yeah, it's much better than it was before. I was a little I was tempted to stop, but it was one of those things where the anime that I was watching before kind of came to a stop, and I was like, dang, there's nothing else to watch. Like I'm waiting on Attack on Titan, and Black Clover is taking forever. Oh look, there's Boruto. Let me go ahead and jump back into that. And I'm glad I did because it's much better than it was before. There's a lot of interesting parallels between this show and the Naruto show. There's a certain point where things kind of kick off in Naruto in a way that you kind of, not that you see the end game, but you see the arc, the end game for this current arc, and that's this similar here. The only difference
Mm-hmm.
with this is that some of these elements were shown early on to be the end game for the entire show. I don't know if Boruto is gonna last as long as Naruto did, but these particular villains seem to be foreshadowed to be the end of everything that we know it. And so I'm excited to see that. I'm not reading the manga. I decided not to because then I wouldn't watch the show. um,
Mm-hmm.
because obviously the manga doesn't have any type of fillers or anything like that. So essentially, Crunchyroll has been taking up all my time. Same thing when it comes to Black Clover. A lot of good things are happening there. They did a 6 month time jump where our heroes have been training and they're beefier, they look older, and all of them get smashed, which is crazy because they're wicked strong, but the people that they're
Mm-hmm.
fighting are so much more powerful that yeah, I felt bad for a couple of them. It's
Oh.
been rough. It's been rough,
Oh.
but all that makes good content because it's one of those things where like you see the training montage, you see people getting stronger, and you expect like to go toe to toe. Some of them do, but then others you find out that like, oh, it wasn't enough. Like everything I've done wasn't enough. And that moment of clarity and hopelessness was like a gut punch for some of the
Yeah.
characters and for
Yeah.
the viewer watching it. So it was very interesting, very interesting. Did you watch anything interesting this week?
Interesting, like how, like, let's see. Let me roll my fingers together.
Well, I know you didn't
Um,
watch was it Married at First Sight?
I did all my Married at First Sight last week because, well, okay, actually, I was watching Australia this week, but it's like
Oh.
it's not last season's, it's the season before. Let me tell you something. The reason why I watch Married at First Sight Australia is because it's pure trash TV. Like it's basically an Australian equivalent of like VH1 at this point because it's so stupid. I swear, the people go on there for fame. They're not going on there because they really wanna get married and they wanna like, the people who they pick for the Australian shows, like, half of them are so puffed up. Like, half of them have so much filler in their face and so much like, you feel like you're watching Love Island instead of Married at First
Oh.
Sight. And also, those marriages that they do in the Australia one, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but they're not real, whereas the American version is real marriages.
Yeah, we
Like,
like
they're
to get
real
all the way
legit,
ratchet.
all the way. Like, the American ones, real, law like binding marriages, and the other one it's just like no, they're just in a social experiment and they're fake married because after the show's over like they can just walk away. Like there's no papers they need to sign anywhere. It's stupid. Anyway, my point is I was watching that, but it's not like it's not last season, it's season before that because that's what's on demand. So I was watching that. These I don't really get that emotionally invested into it. I don't really get triggered. Whereas with the American version, I do. I get really triggered. Like the DC one was really triggering for me because it was literally in DC, and that's a problem for me. And and the fact that they didn't vet these people, they allowed these like three guys. One's a narcissist, one was a psychopath, and the other one was completely untreated bipolar and sociopath. And I just didn't understand how three out of the five couples, or three out of the five men chosen to be on that show, were that harmful as individuals. Like they were harmful to the women that they were matched with. They were harmful to the people who watched the show. And I wasn't alone. Like I remember going online and seeing so many people commenting on different platforms, Twitter, Instagram, Reddit, of course, who
Oh
were
yeah, of
all
course.
of course, Reddit. And I mean people who actually have said, "Hey, trigger warning. Like if you have these problems or if you've experienced certain issues, please do not watch this because it really, really might affect you." And I remember I had to stop watching it. So again, Married at First Sight last week while I was kirking out on this dude, I had to call my sister and talk to her, and she was like, "Oh, I already like I went through it too." She's like, "I didn't even bring it up because I didn't think that you were watching it." And I was like, "Well, I did because I had some free time." And of course, I watched it and I got emotionally like what I don't even is there another word for triggered? Like
You
I
got you
mean,
were pissed off. That's
I was pissed. I had experienced something very similar and it's just the fact that this is a show where you have the ability to vet the people you bring on. This is not Love Island. This is not Temptation Island. This isn't Real World. This isn't Jersey Shore. This is a show where they intentionally bring people together to marry them legally and with the intention of them going through an 8 to 12 week process to see if they actually choose to stay married. This isn't a hookup show or whatever where it's like, hey, you guys met on the show, you were here for 6 weeks on an island, and then you went home and let's see how long you stay together. This
right.
you've invited family into this. Like these people are changed and scarred for life. This isn't one of those little things where you get famous. You are scarred. And
Yeah.
and that's the thing that bothers me so much, especially when it is black women on the receiving end of the tomfoolery. Because I'm like, where are these the most unprotected woman in the damn United States and the damn world is the black woman. And it's like
Facts.
there's no protection for these women in this process. And I mean, like, I'm not saying, oh, women don't mess up on the show, women don't act a certain way, but I am telling you that the two black women on the season last season who were screwed over by their men, I was furious because one of the experts on the show is a black man and he's a pastor at that. So I'm like, where's the protection? You got to protect these women in this process because they were young women. They weren't 38 years old. They weren't 42 years old and were able to hold their own. They were young. And I'm like, this isn't a bounce back, snap back type thing. These women are going to be scarred. One of the girls ended up with a criminal record
Yeah, that's
because her
crazy.
and her man got into a fight and got arrested. And
Yeah.
I was like, where were you guys to protect these people in this process so that they don't have to experience the nonsense because y'all didn't do your vetting properly?
I mean,
And
it's also weird because it's like you expect that because they want the content. But the
mhm,
fact that they are trying to portray themselves as something where like we want these things to work out. We want these people to
right,
work out, and we're gonna have them go through therapy and all this other stuff. But then when it gets messy, it's like, yeah, keep the camera rolling, because
right.
that's what So it's like you can't be half and half. You can't
No,
like care and then have it like the flavor of love. Like it doesn't work that way.
like you either want to go full trash, okay? Be full trash. We know we watch Love and Hip Hop for the trash, okay? It's trash. And everybody who goes on those types of reality shows go there because they know it's a get famous quick scheme. All right? Like you go in there, you and because people regular reality stars are not that interesting, they script that stuff. It's BS. Half of it is BS. Okay? So it's like it's totally different. Married at First Sight is very singular in its methods of why it's a reality show in the first place. And so it really, really does get to me when they allow, a guy who just knocked up his ex fiance 6 weeks prior to getting married to another woman
Yeah.
and then had the nerve to get the two of them together in the same room and try to control the scenario. I was like, you are making all black men look bad right now. Okay. All of them. You won't sit there and be like, I'm going to do the right thing and be with her. And she's like, I don't want Negro. Like that. She's like, "You think I want you when you didn't tell me you was running off on a TV show to get married to somebody you never met? What? Who do you think I am? What do you take me for?"
Yeah, that
Type
that
of
that
stuff.
part was not scripted.
No, definitely. And so I was like, yeah, I can't watch this because I am being affected. I have talked about it before on other episodes where I'm like there's a lot of dating shows that where black people are on and where it's obvious that black women always get the short end of the stick and that there's a greater problem here, a completely greater issue when it comes to being a black woman and watching these shows because black women are treated in a negative way. Like, for example, I think Love Island is a great example, the British version and not the American version, and not like the new South African version that they're I don't know anything about it, but where black women, especially dark skinned black women, are almost always kicked off the island earlier. Black women, dark skinned women are always played, and it's mostly the black dark skinned woman who is utilized to stay on the island until a prettier light skinned or white woman comes along and then they can get rid of the dark skinned girl. And it's I've noticed it on every season that I've watched, and so it's always very harmful. And it's also very harmful when you watch black men do it to black women because there's no protection for these women. And
Yeah.
so it's really, really upsetting because black men are more fetishized by the more common white or lighter skinned women who show up on the show. And that's also been pointed out because several seasons of the show there have been women who are like would go on dates with guys and they're like, "Oh, I love a guy like you. I've always wanted a guy who's mixed race." And it's like, "You've always wanted a guy who's mixed race?" Like, and so there's so many times where the show has proven how TV production is racist. And there's other people who be like, "Oh, no, no, he's racist. Like everybody's so kind." It's like it's not about the individual. It's about the entire production and
Right.
the entire production of all of these types of dating shows where it's a mixed race cast, where it is a multiracial cast because the black women always get the short end of the stick and black men, whether they are mixed or or they're 100% black or just dark skinned black men are fetishized in a way. And the amount of black men who always tend to end up going for white women on the show is immense. Why? Because it's typically a man who favors a white woman who ends up on the show. Because I'm a man who interviews for the show and says they only date black women is not going to get cast on the show.
Right.
So anyway, those basically that those are the types of things that I've noticed when it comes to reality television and like the love shows, and it's a negative experience for black women, especially it's a negative experience for black women watching that. And so for the last 5 years, which I've been really paying attention to these types of shows, and I've noticed that. And so last week watching Married at First Sight once again was nonsense, and I was like, I can't do this.
So
So
that's why I
yeah.
can't do that. That's why when I was talking about the Paramount Plus and how a lot of their content is wrapped up in the reality TV shows from
Mhm.
MTV and BET and stuff like that, basically Viacom stuff. I was like,
Yeah.
I can't get down with it. Outside of
Mhm.
like, I did used to watch Road Rules years ago, but it
Yeah.
was mainly because of the stunts, the things that they would have to do, like challenges and things. And
Yeah.
so I was curious in how that would work out. But other than that, it was like, I don't really care about this stuff. I was never big on those on those shows. So then to learn that, there was trash things going on behind the scenes was also like, yep, yep, I don't really need to do that. Nope. By the way, I did keep the subscription to Paramount Plus.
Uh-huh.
Um, I figured because of the deal and it's for a year, I'll give it some time to improve itself. I wouldn't just be like, right now, I don't think it's worth it for everyone
Right.
listening. However, I
Right.
think it can, uh, improve over time, just like the HBO app improved over time. And I think that there's enough nostalgia to kind of hold you over for a little bit, depending on
Mhm.
what you like. If you love Star Trek, it's the place to be. But or like Nickelodeon or whatever the case may be. I was watching Are You Afraid of the Dark earlier, and it is really, really bad. But nostalgia, nostalgia me was like, hey, this is kind of dope. I remember watching this. So yeah, I went ahead and kept it. Going back to what you were saying though about black women and how they're treated, that actually
Mhm.
kind of ushers in, the first topic that we want to talk
Got
about
it.
tonight, which is Prince Henry and his wife Meghan. Now, before you roll your eyes, we're not talking about the interview. We're not talking about any of those things because yeah, enough people are talking about it. I really don't care in a perspective, in terms of like perspective,
Mhm.
like our life, their life. I only care about the topic in terms of a black woman is being treated poorly. That's about it.
Mhm.
I like they're rich and far away from us.
Mhm.
And yeah, that's as far as I go in that sense. Shout out to Henry for not being complete trash. Kudos to him. Outside of that, I noticed that there was an interesting conversation surrounding the term misogynoir. I believe that's how you pronounce it,
Love
and
that.
it has to do with misogyny specifically targeted towards black women. This uh, crisscrossing of treatment where you have issues that women typically face and then issues that black people face combined into what black women face, which is like the worst, right? It's like it's a combination. It's not just you're a woman, it's also you're a black woman. But
Mhm.
the debate, interesting enough, was because or was spawned because she is mixed. She's black and white, and or I don't know if mixed is the right word anymore. So I
I don't know.
apologize if that's offensive. But she is black and white, and some black people were like, we can't use that term because this was specifically for black women, and other people are like, what are you talking about? Just because she's white passing, or just because there's some white, she has some white in her, doesn't mean that we can't use this term. And so there was the
Yeah.
big debate going on. And so I kind of like lurked. I didn't want to jump in with my,
Mhm.
spiel or whatever. But I went ahead and looked up the term and just to, so I'm understanding what's going on. And the term was created by, I think, Moya Bailey. I believe that's how you pronounce her name. She coined the
Mhm.
term a while back, um, because there need to be a term for misogyny that's targeted towards black women specifically because there's this a lot of times when we talk about these issues, we forget that people experience their experiences differ. And what I mean by like it's kind of like talking about someone who's disabled and the when someone talks about ableism and how disabled people are treated, but then they totally forget that black people who are disabled are treated worse in certain instances because they also have to deal with racism on top of it.
Mhm.
This is a similar thing here where it's like the person is being treated poorly, one because she's a woman and two because she is black. In this
Mhm.
case, I believe this to be the case with Megan because it is not her, I guess, white side
Mhm.
that's causing all the uproar. It's the fact that she's black, and the royal family, in so many words, came out to say that they were concerned about the color of their child, Prince Henry and Meghan's child. If this child was gonna be black, like he's gonna be dark
Yeah.
skinned essentially, and how they weren't feeling that. There was a whole lot of trash stuff that happened before that, but
Mhm.
essentially they didn't like the fact that she was black. They allowed her into which I'm pretty sure that Henry was like, I'm gonna marry her regardless of what you say, but They allowed her in, I would assume, because she's white passing at times, or she can be white passing, or at very least she's light enough. However,
Mhm.
that, I don't know if you want to say courtesy, kind of stopped once we get into the idea of that she might have a black child, and so that's where the uproar comes in, and so people were kind of
Mhm.
arguing back and forth. Personally, I'm like, this is foolish. I understand the idea of wanting to separate things because then it can get murky in terms of who experiences what. But I don't think this is like a I don't want to say competing issue, but I don't think this is something where we can kind of sit back and be like, she can't be housed within this term because she's part white. And a lot of people were saying like, or at least some people were saying like, you know what, it's up to the people who are biracial to kind of stand up for
Mhm.
her, not black people, because we have to stand up for so many other things. And I was just like, why though? Like, why are we
This
making this
is silly.
distinction? Because, and then, there's some people brought up the one drop rule, and I was like, exactly.
Yeah.
Not because we agree with it in a sense that we are like, you're trash if you have like one drop of black in you. That's just foolish. But we agree that, or we understand that the beef is that you do have one drop. So
Yeah.
the fact that they're like, you have some black in you anywhere is the problem. So for me, we don't have to necessarily say that we don't have to be divided on this issue, is my point.
Yeah.
She's experiencing anti-blackness and she's a woman.
Exactly.
It
That's
that could
that's it.
Yeah, that could only happen if you're black.
Exactly.
That's basically it. You know what I'm saying? So like I thought that was interesting. And it falls into colorism, it falls into all these other things, these issues
Mhm.
that we've had, uh, you know, because this isn't the first time this debate has come up in terms
Mhm.
of people being biracial and what that how they kind of fit in with any one group. This has always been a
Mhm.
thing. But I just thought how interesting it went from the royal family being trash to now
Mhm.
this. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to bring that to your attention and kind of hear your thoughts on that.
I was very disappointed when I even saw that tweet, and I was like, "Are you guys serious right now?"
Yeah.
Like, exactly what you just said was right. She's experiencing this because she's black. If she wasn't black and somebody was saying some negative things about a black woman, it wouldn't have anything. She'd be Kate right now. Okay? Can I say
Yeah.
that again? If she wasn't black and people were talking trash about a black woman having a white man's baby, it wouldn't have anything to do. She wouldn't be talking about this. She'd be Kate.
Yeah.
Okay? Kate doesn't have to deal with somebody saying, "How dark is your baby gonna turn out?" She's white.
Yeah.
So I'm really, really disappointed in people. I mean, people can say the stupidest things, and as Black people, we can divide ourselves, which is ridiculous. I mean, like stuff that we've been really trying to work on as a people. Like, hey, we need to stop dividing ourselves. Yes, are we not? Are we Black people are not a monolith, and that's understandable. But this is not something to fight about. This is not a hill to die on for anybody. Like,
It's
if
not.
you have your personal problems with Megan, then please have your personal problems with Megan. But don't sit there and say something on the internet like that. Like, be like, well, she's basically white passing, so this doesn't mean anything. Seriously, if somebody straight up said, if a white person from a historically white inbred family goes to her and says, wonder what color that baby gonna be, because I mean, I know that you got freckles and you tan well, but
Right.
this one Harry over here, lily white, with some red in him, because his daddy might be that Scotsman that his mom was fooling around with. And ain't nobody sure yet. But you have a really, really nice tan. And we know how it skips generations. So there's a possibility that your child might look like your mom. Like,
Mm,
can you understand? Like for anybody to say what they said, that tweet it's absolutely just ridiculous. It's asinine, and I can't even believe that Black people are arguing about this. But the one of the issues I think where Black people are probably even able to argue about this is the simple fact that Megan wasn't really that well known, prior to her and Harry getting together. Like if you watched Suits, you knew who she was. Okay.
yeah.
I watched Suits. Okay, a few times. Like I did. I watched the show before she got with Harry. I did because that dude was on it, and I used to think he was really hot. And so I watched that show a few times, and yeah, she was on that, and I didn't pay her any mind back then. But I think one of the things is that when people find out that this girl was dating Harry, and again, when people, I shouldn't even say when people found out she was dating Harry, because I remember seeing a picture of her with Harry and not paying any mind. I just remember that she had dark hair and it was in a ponytail, and she would like walk behind him with her head down or whatever, because paparazzi and shit. And then one day somebody said she's black, and I was like, where? Because I didn't see it in all the photos that I ever saw of her. Like, I couldn't even Rashida Jones her. Like Rashida Jones, at least you could tell she was black, because like when Rashida Jones, like her bangs, like the way her hair would fall, I was like, this white girl got a relaxer. You know what I mean? And I was like, that that's how you have to look at Rashida Jones, because you're like, I didn't even do that with Megan. The first time I really paid attention to her with Harry, I was like, when I saw the headline, it was like people are being mean to her because she's black. And then I was like, what? I had to look at her twice. I did. I remember looking at her twice, and I was like, oh, snap. Because I was not paying attention. I was more paying attention that somebody was dating my man. Okay.
Boo.
Okay, I was like, this is my, and like I've had plans. I had plans for the royal family. I had plans, and Megan stole my life. She stole my life. Everything. She stole everything that's happening is literally how I planned it. This was literally even supposed to happen anyway. This
That
was supposed to happen. All
see.
of it. No, and I'm being honest with you. I'm not even saying like aside from me being funny right now. I'm just saying like this was actually bound to happen.
Oh yeah.
And it was something that I thought would be a thing anyway, and for real, the moment that they said they were stepping away from royal life, that was when I actually started to like her. I'm be honest with you, because I know a lot of people didn't really care. They thought maybe she was uppity. Da, da, da. The tabloids were really not kind to her. They said a lot of things that
Right.
really turned a lot of people, I think, against her. And so a lot of people thought she was a diva. A lot of people thought this, she's older than Harry. Oh, she's social climbing,
Think she's
talking.
trying to take his money, even though she had a lot more money at the well, at least, and with him leaving,
Yeah.
uh, and finding out that his mom left him a lot of money. She has money. Like she wasn't broke coming into this relationship.
Thank you. She had a Netflix deal. Like,
Right.
she has her own stuff, okay? And I mean, look, seriously, she literally left her paying job. Like Suits wasn't going anywhere. She left a paying job, a good gig, to go and be a wife somewhere. Like, yes, was it the social climb of the century? Absolutely. All right, but and for real, it was the social climb of the century because it happened this century. Like last century would have been a different story. But anyway, like, but give her the benefit of the doubt. God damn it, like that's who you really need, girls. You need to model yourself after her. No, I'm not being mean. Like I'm saying this because like prior to them leaving the royal life, there was so many negative things said about her, and it really wasn't fair. And a lot of people were speaking out. Oprah even said it. Like years, Oprah said it. She was like, I think the tabloids are being unfair, and people started speaking out, saying that they're like coming to her defense. Like, you guys, I think you're being a little harsh on her. You don't even know her, and you're just saying these things. And I was just like, back in the day, I was just like, whatever. She married my man. I don't like her. But the moment, I'm telling you, the moment that it became, yeah, we're leaving the royal life, I was like, oh snap, I knew it. And I said it to my cousin. I did. I said, because I was like, wait a minute, what would make you social climb of the year? Like, what would make you marry the most eligible bachelor in royalty, and on the and the European scale of royalty on the planet, and then leave? Like, you've got a title, you've got this, you've got that, X, Y, and Z. What would make you walk away from that? And I'm like, as predicted, because as soon that's I literally gained the most respect for her. And that's when I truly, truly, truly started liking her, like for real, because before it was just kind of like, okay, whatever, good for her. But when that happened, I just knew. I knew exactly what it was, because I'm a black woman.
Right.
Okay. I already imagined this would happen. And I mean, I used to think that, oh, she was just very accepted. Like it seemed like Charles loved her. As far as we know, like that's what the publications were saying, that Prince Charles loved her and like they got along really well, and that's why he was so happy for Harry to marry her, and like Harry was making his own choice, and Harry was, doing exactly what Prince Charles and uh, Uncle David weren't allowed to do, which was marry a woman who had been married before, marry a woman who had been divorced. Those were literally the things that Charles's uncle was not allowed to do and abdicated the throne for, and what Charles ended up, in the same situation, wanting to marry Camilla Parker Bowles, but his parents were like, no, she's gonna marry Andrew, da da da, and that's what's about to happen, and whatever. And then he ended up having to marry a teenager, you know so
Yes.
it was kind of like, oh, you're looking at this incident, and I shouldn't say incident, but like Charles seems so, on the surface at least, very welcoming of or in very much amorous of Megan, and I thought that was nice, and it was like, okay, she fits in well, whatever, da 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 da. But I think anybody who was a black woman kind of knew what was going to happen. And then I've also seen the tweets and the comments and Instagram stuff like, how would you not know? Like, how did you walk into the situation not knowing what was about to happen? Like, you should have known. You should have known. Literally, Harry is the only person out of that whole family who's like pro black. I mean, and Harry's pro black. Like he's pro black to the point where I'm like, Harry, you need to chill. Like he's been like that for years. I've been saying this for years. I've said it on the cast before. He's always been this way. We always knew Harry was going to get with a black girl. Like I said, I thought she was going to look more like me because I thought she was going to be me. But that's okay. The other point is that people are saying in regards to Megan, like, how did you think that you were going to enter into this life, this situation with the royals, and not get racist behavior towards you? And whether or not like she should have done that, like she should have prepared herself, or whether or not it still happened, it was going to happen regardless. And she said it in the interview where she was like, in hindsight, I really do wish that I had come in with less, like, I forgot the words that she used, but basically she wished she didn't have rose colored glasses on because she should have known that the other shoe was going to drop. She should have known. Like, you walk into the situations and you got to say, wait for it. I just dealt with something at work with this older white woman, and another person told me like 2 months ago, saying, I don't like her, she's racist. And I was like, oh, I don't want to just defend the woman, but I'm like, I don't want to say that she's racist. I just think that she's one of those people who's so well traveled that they just think that they can't be racist. And so
Mm.
ignorant, yes, but I don't want to, label her as a racist. I just want to label her as, ignorant and maybe not sympathetic sometimes, whatever. And nope, the other shoe dropped. The other day, she said the most racist thing, and I was like, "What the?" I mean, I was like, "What?" And I had to say, I was so angry because first of all, I was angry at what she said, and then she did something the following day. Again, she said another thing that was again racist, and I was like, "Why are you doing this? I was rooting for you, Tyra."
Do you
And
do you think that like maybe Megan was, and I don't know, I can't speak for her. It could have been she just, bumped apparently from what this I hear, they kind of bumped into each other and they kind of went from there. Um, but maybe she was like, I'm light enough. If I get in the door, maybe things will be cool. Because I can imagine someone being like, they're not going to allow him to marry me. So if they got to
mhm,
that point and they made a big spectacle of it, then maybe because I'm white passing at times, or at the very least I'm light skinned,
mhm,
that you know what? It's 2021 or 2020, whatever.
mhm,
Like maybe it won't be as bad. You have the older people who will say, something under their breath or something like that. But for the most part, it's kind of like you know, you well, I don't know. I would say like if someone's dating someone of another race and like the older people are kind of still are holding on to their old ways, and you kind of have to deal with that because you're marrying that person, not necessarily their family.
Yeah.
Everybody else who's younger is cool, but they suck, that sort of thing. So I can't
Hmm.
really say in that sense, and maybe that's what she was thinking. But it's not
I hope
shocking.
not.
It's not shocking to anyone, and I think everybody would need to realize that this is a black issue because the beef is because she's black. Whether I know she identifies as biracial, and
Hmm.
that's dope. But the side of you that they don't like is the black side.
It's the
That's
black
it's
side.
You're getting anti-black or racist behaviors because of this, and it's caused all sorts of turmoil in your life.
Yeah.
So
And it's not okay. Like,
right,
it's not
exactly.
okay.
You
I
know,
need people to understand that if this woman has publicly stated, whether or not they did a bombshell tell all, that's not the point. She said that she felt alone, isolated, and that she wanted to commit suicide. The fact that Harry stepped up as a husband, as
right.
a father, as a man, and said, hell the F no. Screw all of you guys. You're cool, Granny, but the rest of you can go suck it. I'm taking my wife and I'm getting the hell out. That is what he did, and that is what all husbands need to do. Okay, we were not about to have a history repeats itself here. He was like, this woman is not going to end up like my mother. I love her too much for that. Okay, I will be the protector no matter what. Even if I think whatever da da da, they should get an argument with somebody, she could be wrong. But you want to know what? I will never stand by and watch my wife wilt away like a dying flower because of this situation that we live in. Screw it. And he got that, they got the hell out of there. So I understand a lot of people are like, oh, the Megan and them, they're coming to America. Well, we're not paying. I'm like, yo, they are coming out right now and telling you the reasons why they had to escape because the bitch wanted to die. And if anybody knows Diana's story, Diana was putting her fingers down her throat and throwing up 5 times a day. All right. Full on bulimic, suffering through what she had to suffer through in that family. I mean, the things that this idea of the royal family, what it embodies, is ridiculous and it's foolish, and nobody should have to endure the nonsense. But yes, did whether or not Megan walked into it knowingly, did it? You were right. I mean, yes, she walked into this, and it is what it is. But the racism, it doesn't change. Like the fact that she still experienced it, you. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
it's
like there's no
really
like preventive, like obviously hindsight 2020, but I don't think she's regretful at all. The fact that she's with Harry and things
yeah.
are going the way that they're going, I don't think, um she's regretful at all in that sense. Like this is something we're just gonna have to deal with. Unfortunately, it was worse than what maybe they expected, but
Hmm.
at the end of the day, my point for bringing it up, not so much was, their tiff with the royal family, because I don't really care about
No.
them, was more so or less like this is a black issue. This is something that we
Yes.
see, and the point is, for the most part, when you were talking about how she kind of jumped the social ladder or jumped, in terms of, success or whatever with marrying Harry, is it doesn't, no matter where you go, you're still
Right.
black. Like
You're still black.
and you're biracial, you're still black.
Yeah.
It's and even with people, you have a beef with biracial people claiming black or whatever the case may be. The only time I have a beef with that is when you use it to your advantage, where you're like you're white to get a job, but you're black for other things, or like
Yeah.
what I'm saying, like you're using it to be in a sense that you don't deal with things that we deal with, and you try to be down when it's beneficial. But that's not
Yeah.
Megan. She has never done those things, at least to
No.
my knowledge. So
Not that I know of. She's been an activist since she was a child.
right,
Like,
right. You know what I'm saying?
you know?
So that's it's interesting in that um that we have to kind of look at and be like, well, because she's biracial at all. It's different. Like no, it's really not. It's not.
It's really
Because
not.
they're not
And
worried about her. the if she was, if there was no fear of her, and granted, they probably would have still treated her badly because they treated his mother badly. But if there was no possibility that the child would come out darker than her, we wouldn't even be talking about it. So there's that.
Right. She'd be
Uh,
Kate.
mo- moving on to our second topic. Um, yeah, so I was, a big Marvel fan, and I enjoy majority of their films in the MCU, and Ant-Man is definitely one of my favorite films. I like the
Mm-hmm.
humor. I like how it's kind of more down to earth than the other films in the sense that
Mm-hmm.
it's not like the world ending. It's like more of a personal story for a lot of the characters.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, I was happy to hear that Ant-Man 3 is in the works, or at the very least was, they're getting things moving. What I wasn't happy to hear was that T.I will no longer be a part of the film. And I super
Wow.
wasn't happy to hear why he won't be a part of the film. And I want to be clear that the why is way more important than him not being a part of the film. Um,
Truly.
apparently, he has been accused of, well, actually, him and his wife Tiny have been accused of sexual assault. Not once, not twice, not three times, but 11 times. Or actually, what
12.
what you were saying, 12. Like apparently, someone else
12.
came forward.
According
Um,
to yesterday on NBC News, it's 12.
so and this the first person kind of came forward back in January, and they, Ti and Tiny denied it, of course, because that's what rich people do. And that's not me saying that they, like, I'm sure that they did it, but no one's gonna be like, yeah, we did it. Yep, uh-huh. Yep, I can tell you where it happened. No, nope, that's not gonna happen. Um, and since then, several other women have come up, or come out and said that they've done things, everything from forcing them to take illegal substances to sexual assault to sexual abuse, or I don't know if someone was
Mhm.
was beaten, or they said assault, so alleged assault, sexual abuse, but it's
Held at
several women.
gunpoint.
Yeah, kidnapping, and it's all like as in like they did it as a couple, not just like because when I first heard it, I was like, Ti, what did you do? But then I was reading further and I was like, wait, Ti and Tiny? Like, how did this happen? It was really even crazy when I found out that these incidents happened between the time of 2005 and 2018. Like this is happening as their show was on the air. Like, what? What is happening? Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like this is not the normal, where like an actor was it was we talked about Cuban Gooding Jr. like touching people in the club and all this stuff. This is
Yeah.
more on some R. Kelly, having a harem type stuff. Like this is like, you
This
know
is worse. This is on some Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell shit. I mean,
right, like
it's bad. Like, cause you had help. You had your girl. Your wife was helping you, and I shouldn't even say your wife was literally a co-conspirator. Like, you guys were doing this together. This was a thing. Do you
what
understand why my brain is really racked right now? Like, people were all upset because they're like, I guess we can't play R. Kelly music. Well, R. Kelly music was trash. We talked about this last year. I
we
never liked
did.
any of the songs except Step in the Name of Love. And that's really it, honestly. And then of course the Lady Gaga song is I really liked that song. I still like that song. It's the only one that I give exception to, even though that's possibly the worst one. But if I have to cancel I gotta what? I have like 6 CDs. And I said CDs.
Well, for those you don't necessarily have to toss because he's not getting any more money for that. Um,
Exactly.
and the thing is, like, I don't, I'm not the person who I lean on believing the women,
Oh yeah.
because the idea that they would accuse someone, it's rare that that happens where they accuse someone and it didn't happen at all.
Yeah.
Where there's no truth or anything to the story. I have even less uh, reason to trust the guy's account when there's multiple women. Like, okay, it's like, wow, like what the freak did you do that 11 different people are saying the same things? within that time frame. Like it's not like he came up on some money. You can't use the Bill Cosby line that he's gonna buy a network. You can't, all the BS that you would to kind of protect people. You can't say because outside of being in the really really bad Monster Hunter film and you know what I'm saying, the his show on, I think it was on VH, I forget what show, his reality show, um and the upcoming Ant-Man film, there's really nothing. Oh, he has a podcast. Other than that, there's nothing going on that
Yeah.
it would say like, oh, people are doing this to kind of, throw a monkey wrench into his plans of being even more successful or being a mogul or something. None of that is true here. Like none of that. So if there's nothing to gain, I mean, granted he's rich, but he's been rich for like forever. He didn't become rich
For a
just
long
because of
time.
January. So
Yeah.
I can't see why someone would say that. You know what I'm saying? It's just interesting that this was happening amidst other things that was going on where people like have cameras all in your place. Because like you think about like
Yeah.
R. Kelly, no one's been to his place. Like it's a compound that's like locked out. Like you can't, even when they were interviewing him, they couldn't go in. Like you're not allowed to go in, and
Yeah.
they didn't get past the gate. And so I don't know if this was like, type of one night stand type of thing. They got way, crazy, and then this person was like, you know what, I'm gonna talk about it years later, type of thing. I have no idea. I haven't looked into it, but there's one lawyer that's representing all 11, Tyrone A. Blackburn, and he was saying that they're not even looking for money. Like they're not. There's no uh civil suit or anything like that. They just want to have charges brought up and for obviously for Tiny and T.I to go to jail. That's
Yeah.
that's
Mhm.
crazy. Like, wow. I don't even know what
Yeah.
to say. Like, what is going on? And
It
it
is
typically
going
doesn't
on.
surprise me. With I guess with rich people finding out that rich people do horrible things, that's not shocking because we've been down this road a million times.
Yeah.
This particular one is shocking to me though.
Yeah. This is really shocking to me. I mean, like, I'm racking my brain here because I'm trying to think if he ever spoke out on any of these other cases. Other things that, like, if he said anything about the Bill Cosby cases, did he say anything about Jeffrey Epstein? Did he say anything about what's it called? The other guy, Weinstein? Like, and I'm asking this question because, like, I think I still do follow him on Instagram, but I get less of, well, first of all, I try to stay off Instagram because it is a rabbit hole. It's just,
Right.
you can scroll for hours on Instagram, and then Instagram like reloads while you're scrolling, so you end up at the top again and you got to scroll through everything like 30 more times just to get back to where you started, and it's really annoying. But like, his stuff used to pop up all the time, but then some of it I had to slow down on liking some of his stuff because he would always end up at the top of my feed, and I was like, wait, some of the stuff I actually don't like.
Right.
so so I have not been paying attention to his page honestly for a while now. I know he used to speak out. He talks about controversies all the time. And he has his opinions and he says stuff all the time. We talked about last year when he was mad and he was talking about, the whole Kobe thing. And like, I'm really really trying to rack my brain to see if he's ever commented on any of these other things, because that would be very weird. Like, if he said something about,
Well, I mean that typically happens too. Like people who try to, move away, or
yeah,
maybe if they feel away to try to kind of like, oh, this is the way I fix things. Because there's been a bunch of people who have done terrible things. We find out later, but they're
yeah,
also the people who are screaming the most about like protect women. Because that's typically when it comes out. It's like they say something like you need to protect women, you need to do all this stuff, and then someone hits them up on Twitter, adds them on Twitter and is like, oh, that's funny you say that because, et cetera, et cetera.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? So like that part probably wouldn't shock me. Um, in the sense that like, okay, you're a hypocrite. It's just the other. I didn't expect his wife to be a part of anything. Is what because usually it's the guy. Like the guy's doing something shady. The wife finds out. She's all upset. There's turmoil at home. He has to go and like try to defend himself in court. Blah 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 blah. but it doesn't really, you know what I mean? Like it's for the most part she's not aware of what's happening, but the way they're coming is like this
No,
was a duo,
this
like
was a
a
joint effort. If
right.
you read what he's apparently, this is a statement. I mean, he said a bunch of things. Um, Apparently he's quoted, but the end of his quote was, whatever we have done has been with consensual adults who into what we into and like what we like. We want something, we know exactly where to go and get it. And I'm like,
And that
okay, so
that makes sense on the surface because they're rich.
yeah, yeah, because they're rich. And I'm like, this is the start. This is where we start chipping away at the ice block, because now we can say, okay, well, this person says you did that. Do you recognize this person? Yes. Did you have intercourse with this person? Yeah, and it was consensual. Okay, so now we are getting, so let's get closer. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
now we're starting, we can get a little bit further, because you are at least saying, like, you're not, with that statement, you're not saying that you and your wife jointly together get into these behaviors, and nobody cares if you get into a specific behavior. The problem is the drugging, the false imprisonment, the kidnapping, the physical abuse, the sexual assault. It's those are the issues. And so it's very interesting that you would, like, I don't know, not understand your station. You are super rich, and so you can do whatever it is that you want, but also understand that, let's say that if you think you're doing what it is that you want, you've got the money to back it up, that this can always come back to bite you. Like, and
Yeah.
I'm saying that in a manner in which people want to do what they want to do. And if you're gonna say, we do stuff with people that like what we like, okay. So you're saying that you have a freedom to do whatever it is that you want, and you're gonna do it with people that want to do it too. But I'm like, but also in your own situation, also in your fame and your success and all that, do you not see where that can go left?
Right.
It's
Even if you weren't doing or what they're accusing you of, it's like
exactly.
you're allowing people in your space that really don't need to be there,
Yeah,
and now all this is happening. Like even if it's true, like I don't believe that the women are lying, but if they
right.
are, it's like what like I don't know.
What
I'm not
gain?
rich and I don't
What
live
gain?
that way.
Yeah,
So I
and
can't speak on that.
I just need to know what's the gain, because, like, there's no gain for these women. If they're not
Right.
seeking money, they're not seeking restitution, they're not seeking X, Y, and Z. They just want everybody to know that this is a behavior that you engaged in, and that they've been suffering for this period of time. Like the one girl who says that she was raped on the bus, on the tour bus. Like, that's horrid. Like, these are, like, they're giving graphic statements. They're saying, this is what happened. I woke up and did not know what happened. These women are saying that they've been drugged
Yeah,
and
one was
woke
saying
up
that
with,
they weren't allowed in the house without taking drugs first.
I mean, that's insanity. That's you're Bill Cosbying these girls.
And it's
Except
what's crazy
Cosby
about
was
that?
Cosbying them after they were in the house already.
Well, yeah, and it's like you don't. What's really weird, and I guess now I say that in the sense that like I don't think this way, so it's weird to
Right.
me. But I get it from
Yeah.
a perspective of there's power involved. But my thing
Hmm.
is, you kind of already have it.
Yeah.
Like it would be no. I would be it would be shocking if like no woman on the planet wanted to date Ti. The fact that he's mad rich, the fact that he's a rapper, the fact that he's on TV and in movies, it would be really odd. The same thing with Bill Cosby. It would be really
Yeah.
odd for no woman, even if someone who wants to be the side chick or whatever, it would be really odd to not be able to find any of them that are willing to do this with you. The fact that you
Right.
have to go to this extra mile, like you have everything that would allow this to happen already.
Right.
Why do we have to go the extra mile of drugging someone? It's
Exactly.
not needed, required, and it's not good. You know what I'm saying? Like you ruined. like, cause his TV show has been canceled. Like they've pulled it from, and while they're doing investigations, you're not gonna be the
Yeah,
next Ant-Man, which I'm pretty sure was a big bag.
that
You know,
totally is a big bag.
which
Like, come on, man.
allows you to be in other films because hey, look, I have this under my belt. You know what I'm saying? And w- yeah, it just looks really bad.
It
Hopefully,
does.
whatever the truth is, I hope that comes out. I hope everyone gets the justice they deserve, and we see what happens. Like I want to know what
Yeah,
happens in that sense. Not like I'm in their business, but I want like if you did do something wrong, you should go to jail. Just like I said for Bill Cosby. Like we can't
exactly.
just be going around doing goofy stuff, and then just because you're rich, you get off. Also, for the people who are in the back who are gonna be like, well, what about Harvey Weinstein and all this other stuff? Shut up.
Seriously.
And moving on. Um,
Moving on.
the last topic we want to talk about is what we made mention of at the beginning of the cast, and that is Coming to America 2.
Yes.
Before I go into my thoughts on it, my final thoughts, I want to say something that I've been noticing. Black people are allowed to be critical of black things, of black content,
Yes.
of black music, of black dress, of black, whatever the case may be. We're allowed to be critical of it. There is no We're not backstabbing anybody by being critical. That
Uh-huh.
there's this weird fixation that or this idea that because Coming to America isn't whatever the case may be, it's not a white film that's being
No.
rebooted or has a sequel after a whole bunch of years that's the only
No.
reason why we always tear ourselves down, we always blah
Mm.
blah. And you know what? All those movies had issues. All the movies that people are bringing up where it was a reboot or it's a sequel of an old film, the same thing happened. People are like Hollywood is, bankrupt in terms of new ideas. They said that it's going to be whack. It doesn't measure up to the original movie. There's a ton of movies I can name right now that were all white for the most part, and it got the same, attention. And most of those, in this sense, was before it even came out. Coming to America was more or less championed. No one asked for
Mhm.
it, but
Yeah.
when they heard about it, they're like, "Oh, I would like. I'm curious." At the very least, black people were curious,
Mhm. Mhm.
and that's not the case for a lot of films that got remade in the past 5 or 6 years. A lot of
Yeah.
people are like, "Why?" Like we heard about was it Train to Busan is getting a U.S. like remake, and everyone's like,
Oh,
"Why?" Like that doesn't
why?
make
The
any
Korean one
sense.
was perfect.
It was, and it doesn't. We don't even have the. Anyways, the point being is that we're allowed to be
We
critical.
don't have a Busan in America.
Exactly. We're allowed to be critical and we can not like things. And it's not because we're comparing it to the first film. At least not me. I'm not comparing it to the first because you can't do that twice. You just can't.
Yeah. No.
Um, that being said, and I spoke a little bit about this last week, so I'm not going to be too long, but I feel like it was a fun movie. The actors and actresses were having a good time.
Yeah.
They enjoyed what they were doing. They were happy to see each other again. They were happy you know, to work under the situation that they were able to work in the sense that
Mhm.
it was their movie. It's our movie. It's culturally ours.
Yes.
So there's a celebration in that. Like we get to have something else. Dope. And there was a couple of laughs. And when I say that, I say it made me smile. I didn't really laugh. I smiled. I liked a lot of the cameos, and
Mhm.
I liked that there was some cleverness here or there that I when
Mhm.
I saw it I smiled. I was like, this is funny. Morgan Freeman, like, you know, talking for the king's funeral, I thought was clever because he's always doing that. Him and James Earl are always
I
doing that.
know.
Like they're always the document the doc for God, it just fell out of my head, but they're always the voiceovers for these type of things. And so for him to be doing that, that was rather clever. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, so all your flowers up front. Boom. Outside of that, it's mad forgettable. It's not very funny. It's one of those things where like none of these films are ever needed. No one's ever like pining for them, but this one is so
Yeah.
not needed that you can see it on screen and it kind of hurt a little bit in that sense. And again, this is not comparative to the original film. The reason why the original film stands out the way it does versus say like Eddie Murphy in 48 Hours or even The Golden Child isn't loved as much as this particular film.
Mhm.
Maybe Harlem Nights is neck and neck, but for the most part, it was because it's a good film. the first one is a good film. Even if we take away things that, like, if you're a first descendant, or what I'm saying, like if there's some things
Uh-huh.
that about Africa that don't make sense or just are bad stereotypes, if you take
Uh-huh.
those things away, just the plot and what they're trying to do with the story was a solid story versus what we have here. Because it's mostly a retread. It's mostly a retread of the original story, and a lot of it is forgettable,
Uh-huh.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
At least from my opinion. But it's not because I'm comparing it to the first. I actually went in like this is a sequel because it is. I didn't think about like how it was gonna pair. I was hoping that it wouldn't do a lot of the same things it did in the first film because there's so much room to grow in different areas. Um, I was also kind of disappointed that we weren't in America very long. Like
I
the
know.
coming to America was really just a trip. Like you just could road trip to America and then back to Zamunda. Like it
It
wasn't
literally no.
like all of like a day to like find like he found his son mad fast and was back, back to and I was like, all right, it's not really coming to America. It's more like a visit.
It
It's
should be called Came to America.
Yeah, it came to
Like
because you left mad quick, fam.
seriously.
So that's my spiel. I enjoyed it for what it was, but I don't think it's a good film. I don't want a part three, and
Yeah.
I think being streaming, like the fact that they because I think the budget was like 60 mil, they got 100 something mil from
Wow.
Prime or Amazon to be on it, and I think that was a good thing. I think they would have made a lot of money like opening week, and I think it would have been a sharp decline after that. Personally,
Hmm.
I think being on a streaming service saves it, and yeah, it's cool, but
Yeah.
like being honest, like if it wasn't for the nostalgia pool for some of these cameos and some of these people, and Wesley
Hmm.
Snipes because he was amazing, you
Yeah.
don't really care. You,
You don't.
I I liked some of the characters. His daughters were dope.
Yeah, they were dope.
I like how they beat him up. Uh,
Which is great.
you know what I'm saying? Like the strong, their roles were very strong, but like,
Hmm.
and the fact that he cast his real daughter, I thought it was also dope. But yeah, I was like, okay, and we're done.
And we're done.
That was me. I was like, oh, big event. It was not the Black Panther of 2021. So
Yeah. And it shouldn't. I mean, honestly, Coming to America and Black Panther are very different,
right, right,
and
right,
but in the same realm, they are both Black movies. They're not African movies. They are
right,
Black American movies with majority Black American actors. There
right.
weren't enough Africans in the movie because, like, this is just one of the things that I took away from it. In 1989 or 87 or 86 or whatever the first movie came out, which I cannot remember which year it was, honestly, 1985. I was only a few years old, so I really want to say it was like by 1986. I think it came out in 85, whatever, who cares? But it's a little bit more understandable to not have Africans in the movie at that point in time. Not for any real reason, but because this was a black movie. Like this is Eddie Murphy's movie. Like, you know what I mean? Like it was just
Right,
like,
right.
okay, let me hire all the people I know and or people who auditioned did boom, we're gonna do this movie. It's an American movie. It's a black American movie. It wasn't meant to be an African movie. And it was meant to be a caricature of what black people think of Africans. And that's
Right.
why I appreciate that movie. Like, obviously, as an adult, one of the things I love so much about that movie is that I did not look at that movie as, oh, this is black people's image of Africa. I thought Eddie Murphy is a brilliant person and the people he hires are brilliant people, and I felt like it was a caricature of the stereotype that black people think of Africans, and that's what made it funny
Yeah.
to me. That's hilarious because it's like, dude, like he everybody completely understands that it is not realistic to have a an elephant and a tiger running around in your backyard. Like that was the best part because, like, but we're gonna pretend like it's normal because this is what people think. And it
Yeah.
made me laugh. Like the first movie is, great. I know all the lines. Like I love that movie. It's so much fun. It's ridiculous. It's stupid. And I love seeing Madge Sinclair, God rest her soul. Um, That movie too, I could not stop laughing. I really did. I know you were like, you smiled, you were really laughing, but I laughed the whole movie, probably because I was just really excited. And I was just so happy to see so many people back. Like, I was so happy to see John Amos walk it through, because I was just like, I was waiting because I was like, John Amos is still alive, right? He is. I kept telling myself, he's alive, right?
Fam, I was
He's
like, is
alive.
he's alive, right? He's
But
him and Louis. I was like, are they still alive?
Lucy, I knew was alive.
I was so like I was like, oh wait, are they gonna CGI these people? Like I can't.
Right.
I had to go look it up.
I was watching it and I kept saying to myself, I was like, because I always try to think of when I remember stars like dying, and I remember when Esther Roll died. I do. And so it side note, Esther Roll is always older than John Amos anyway, so but she looked good. Esther Roll, you go good times. But so John Amos, I was just like, is this man still alive? Like, for real, for real. And I was like, he ain't still alive. And when he walked in, I was like, oh, thank Jesus. Oh, like, you don't understand the relief in my heart. Was like, this man is kicking. He looks great. Like, he is 9,000. He looks great. And I already knew James Earl Jones was still alive because he and I have had a conversation and he's not allowed to leave this planet.
Oh
So,
word.
oh, totally word. We've had conversations since my childhood because, like, he kind of looks like my dad. So, I always looked at, the yellow bone men, like dudes who have accents, because he kind of, he looks like my dad. Anyway, calling pal too. But so I was super excited to see these people. I mean, looking at James Earl Jones, I was like, first of all, this you laying in the bed looks too real. Okay. I really wonder if they wheeled you in like this. This is a problem to me. I'm not ready to see you like this. That's why the funeral was so good. And I feel exactly the same way you feel with Morgan Freeman. I heard his voice and I just started cracking up. I was in tears because I was like, why is this allowed? Why is anything that's on TV allowed to happen right now? It's too funny. And
Yeah,
then the ridiculousness of Wesley Snipes. To me, he made the movie.
he
If
did.
Wesley Snipes wasn't in the movie, if Wesley Snipes didn't play the role he played, if it was cast like somebody, if it was somebody else, like, it would not have been half as funny. He played that role so well. The dancing, just the way that he was walking in, I was like, "Do you understand how mad you're making me right now? It's so good." Like, it was amazing. I was crying. I'm like, I'm so mad his name was General Easy and then his son was Edie Easy. I was like, stop. Okay. And I'm like, the whole thing with him like being like what's his face in the Lord of War, you know? Like,
Yeah.
I could not get over it. Like, it everything that he was doing was a complete caricature of all the African warlords that you see in movies. It was so ridiculous. The fact that the kingdom was called Nexdoria was
Fam.
ridiculous. Okay. What? Nexdoria? And I was talking to my sister yesterday and she was like, I didn't catch that. I said, that's what it was called. And she's like, I'm so mad. Crying, crying like this is ridiculous. I love, like, I know we said it last week with the part where they walk into the barbershop and he was like, "Oh, look, it's Idie and Amin."
Right.
Stop it. The jokes, like those smart jokes, those historical jokes, they were so wrong, but so well like placed. Because if they weren't placed, then it would have just been stupid. Like, the movie really wouldn't have had a reason to exist. You know what I mean? It already didn't have a reason to exist. Like you said, nobody was asking for this, but it was intriguing. It was like, what? Okay,
Right.
behind this. But I was like, if I feel like if they didn't put those jokes, if they didn't put those historical, like, very borderline wrong, but honestly acceptable jokes in there, it just wouldn't have worked. It wouldn't have played out. But I do feel like the story was like ridiculous and forced because this whole idea of having a son you know, that he, like a week before he met Lisa. Like that's just so, like, come on. Come on. Like
Yeah.
that's stupid. Like it would have made more sense if he had a bastard son in the nether, like even in if one of the bathers had given him a baby. I know it wouldn't have given him a reason to go back to Queens, except maybe they could have written the story where, like, what if he knocked up one of the bathers? The bather disappeared to Queens because, and then they had to go back and retrieve,
Yeah.
and be like, oh shit, this is my kid. But I mean, I did love Leslie Jones like that. She was so much fun. Uppity bitch, say what? Like, you
Yeah.
know everybody was well placed, so I was happy, but I did think that they spent a lot of time kind of on, like, maybe a little bit of unnecessary things. I wish that there was a little bit more sentimental stuff towards Madge Sinclair, towards his mother, and it wasn't there. And I don't know if there was like legal reasons behind that. There could have been a possibility that um they have the permission to use her likeness from the first movie, right? Like there's
Right.
that possibility. Like it was only her picture was in the movie. They didn't do any flashbacks for her, you know. And so I was definitely upset that you didn't get to see that because but Queen Aeolian, Alien, remember he was like, "What? Alien?" Like she was the voice of reason. She was the one who could whip Jeffrey Queen King Jaffe Joffer into shape. Like it was her. She was the one who told him that he was being ridiculous. He was the one who said, "Don't, you can't talk to Lisa like that. That is my son." Da, da, da. He's the one who she's the one who said to Akeem, "Go get your girl."
Right.
It was her. And so not to physically see her presence or not to physically get any um idea of what happened to her. Like they didn't even talk about it. They didn't say this is when mom died. This,
Right.
da. They didn't say how that affected how, his relationship with his wife and his daughters or his relationship with his father. Because, Matt Sinclair died in the 90s, I believe. And it was,
Yeah.
it was a long time ago. And so obviously her not being around, it I mean, she's been gone for 30 years or something, but I just felt like her character should have had some sort of
That would have
closure.
made sense. That would have made
Yeah,
sense because I feel like a lot of things were rushed. Like the story was
yeah,
kind of rushed out to get to the jokes, where even though there was a lot of jokes in Coming to America, the first one, I feel like it was paced better. We
yeah,
got to learn who he was as a person, the interactions, even the side characters and what they were all about. With his future wife's sister and how she was a gold digger and how
yeah,
what I'm saying? Like there was a lot of things that were tangible outside of just this one, focus on we need to go find our son or we need to do this or that. There was
yeah.
a lot of things because even the people who were, the Wesley Snipes' son and daughter, and especially her because she didn't really get many lines. It was like we just
I know.
need you here. Just
I
like,
mean,
and I get why like Rick Ross didn't have a lot of lines because, they used his house for, a lot of the filming. So he was like, we'll just give you a cameo real quick. But
right.
a lot of people, there was no, it was very quick. We just kind of
Yeah.
like boom, 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 just go through
Right.
everything. And because
Hmm.
of that, there was no agency with anybody outside of Eddie and his son. And even then, I didn't really care too much about his son because you weren't around him enough. I mean,
No.
you were there and he spoke with the barber that he eventually chooses. Well, anyways, but you know what I'm saying. But like, you don't, in terms of who he is as a person, we don't get a lot. We just kind of get him reacting to the new world he's brought into.
Yeah.
Whereas in the previous movie, everybody I think, had a little bit of agency, um, especially the person who he picked to marry. She was talking about how, McDowell's and how there's all this weight thrust upon her to marry someone who's also rich so he could be successful and, bring success to their business and all this other stuff. You just can't date anybody, you know,
Right.
all the pressure that Eddie Murphy's character was feeling as well, and None of that is here in the second. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like they retread the jokes, but not the good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, not the purpose.
Yeah,
There was no real purpose. They just created a random storyline. It was almost kind of like Zoolander 2, which mind you, I love Zoolander. So I don't
I
care
don't
what
know
anybody says.
why. Why?
We've discussed this.
Yes, we have.
Okay.
We have.
Zoolander is an amazing movie. It is still one of my favorite. Anyway, that's not the point. But Zoolander 2, I was like, okay, but I still loved it. I don't care what anybody says because you give me Owen Wilson. Give me Owen Wilson any day. Okay. I can deal. I can do it. I can do all of it. It's stupid and I love him. But the point is that the plot was all over the place. There was really no real point. So I was even perplexed as to why the movie was as long as it was. It was like you guys just kept finding stuff to fill the movie with, and it was like, but there's no story here. That's why I really feel like flying to Queens to find your son that they already found was like BS. The son really was not a round character. He
Yeah.
like what? He was scalping tickets in front of it. Like I don't really get what he like what was his purpose? Like what does he want to be? When you know what I mean? Like I mean
Yeah, it's
when he
more like they hinted at potential. So there's a
yeah,
potential
that's it.
story with him being poor. There's a potential story with him being poor. There's a potential story with a fallout between never knowing his father and you know even a potential story with how he was conceived and how Wishcon was drugged and all this other stuff. There's a potential story with the two families meeting each other because they all of this stuff is breezed by.
Yeah.
Any conflict that they might have had kind of stayed with her wearing the other queen's dress. Like,
Yeah.
and then it was like, she made that joke like, bitch say what or whatever. But then after that they're friends. Like it's like whatever. Like it's what I'm saying? Like there's the conflicts. The biggest conflict I think was his daughter and his son butting heads
Yeah.
because she wanted to be his heir, which was
I
a
mean, she was
good
raised
that
to.
was a good like plot branch that they could have
Mhm.
expounded. But then she comes around mad quick too. So it's like
Yeah.
we had all these good ideas. We want to get the jokes in. Let's sprinkle a little bit here, a little bit of there. Don't really have too much of closure for the most part because it has
Right.
to has to have a happy ending. And there you go.
Somebody answer this. How close was Nexdoria? Obviously, it's next door. But like, remember when they were like, "He's here," and he moseys on into the castle, he just like breaks open the doors, and is like, "Where did you come from?" Because again, this is something that I need to say that I didn't say last week, but y'all, Zamunda has always been in the middle of a jungle. From the first
Right.
movie, like the set, it's in the middle of a jungle, and it's like, oh my god, and there's all these people dancing, great music, high life, yes, but the point is, I don't know where all those people ever come from. Like they clearly don't all live in the castle and in the
Right.
palace, but the real issue is where do they come from because there's no roads. It's not even like, you know how when you're in Wizard of Oz and you can see the Emerald City from wherever you are and it takes forever to get there and you got to travel the yellow brick road and go through the really crazy woods with the flying evil monkeys and nonsense. Like you can at least see the path it's ahead of you. And but here, all you do is see Zamunda. You see lots of green, lots of trees, and
One
lots
house.
of in one house. There is nothing else around there. I was like, where is the airport? Like where? I mean, I just you don't know where anything there's no logical for anything else. So when General Easy they were like, "You're from Nexdoria," which I'm assuming is the country next door.
Right.
Like it's not like it's a city in Zamunda. Like I don't know what Nexdoria really is. Nobody knows. It's fine. I don't even mind that. But the fact that General Easy gets there so fast and it's just like, so where every time he comes barging in, where exactly are you coming from? Is there a palace next door? Is it just like another palace? You know how there was that one movie about another Earth where Earth was like eclipsing another planet Earth that was like
Yeah.
literally right behind it the whole time? Is there another palace behind this palace that's next door? Yeah. I need some
Man,
answers.
it's interesting. because when you go to their country, they have roads, they have, at least when they showed them pulling up to where
Right.
Wesley Snipes place is, it's more
Urban. It was
urban.
Nigeria. It was literally Nigeria and Ghana.
Yeah, that's what it seemed like. That's what it seemed.
Yes.
Goodness. But yeah,
So
it's interesting, and I'm happy that people are happy. I'm not here
yeah.
to trash. If you're having a good time, more power to you. I think we
Right.
need to have a good time, and that's one thing I can say about it is that it's cool to have a thing that's ours, even if it's bad.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, we joke about Tyler Perry all the time, and even some of
Yeah.
Spike Lee's films are trash, but it's
Yeah.
dope that we have something, even if it's bad, because a lot of
Yeah.
the times we don't get a say. We don't get, we're not the directors, we're not the writers, we don't get the
Yeah.
budget, we don't get a lot of this stuff. We're kind of just the side people, the extra. Um, Shout out to Monica Rambeau from WandaVision, who only had a few moments on screen that, really mattered. Yeah, we're the extra people, we're the side piece. We're not really
Mhm.
the focus. And so for us to have something that's specifically ours, with these films, I'm happy. And I'm happy that other people are happy.
Yeah.
I'm just also at the same time recognizing that it isn't as good as I wanted it to be. But, whatever.
Mhm. I
Anywho.
had no idea. No idea, no idea. I didn't know what to expect. And then it came on. I laughed. I mean, the fact that Randy Watson and Sexual Chocolate were there is still a plus. Obviously, Eric LaSalle couldn't be here with us anymore. So we didn't get to see Soul Glow, but and not that he would have been invited, but but there were joys, there were things that just that, and I'm still smiling right now. You can probably hear me smiling because I'm still laughing. It was so bad. It was so dumb. It was so dumb that I can't help but laugh because I don't even know if this is what Eddie Murphy wanted. I don't even know if this is literally what he expected. I do
Right.
not know. And that's why I'm laughing. That's also why I'm laughing because I'm sitting here like, I don't know what your plan was here, but you managed to make a movie. It is out in a time where we are still, a lot of us are still homebound. And it made me laugh, even though it didn't make me laugh because it was good. It made me laugh because it was ridiculous. It was almost like watching Leslie Nielsen movie. So and so I'm okay with it. I will probably watch it again just because I can. And then I probably won't watch it ever again because there's only some things I just want to see Wesley Snipes again and Michael Blackson say stupid stuff.
Yeah. I mean,
That's
I think
it.
his previous film, because it had been some time since he had done movies, and because he was a lot of his movies were bad, unfortunately. But
Yeah,
the last one,
totally.
Dolomite, was actually decent and funny.
Yeah,
And so I think
yeah.
Dolomite is above this one. If it wasn't for the fact that it was so nostalgia rific to everyone, I think that would be people would be speaking
Yeah,
about it a little bit more. But yeah,
that's
definitely
it.
go check that out if you
Mhm,
want to see. If you haven't got to see it, we didn't spoil anything major. Definitely go check that out. It is available on Prime as we speak.
mhm,
And yeah, that is it for our show. We appreciate you for
mhm,
hanging out with us. We had a good time talking about all sorts of mess, and um, we plan to do so again next week. So feel free to
mhm,
subscribe, hit that notification bell. Also,
mhm.
heads up. I keep saying that we're going to be doing some changes, or we're going to make some changes to the stream or to the podcast. I do too much stuff, and so I can't talk. I said stream. We're not streaming. We're podcasting. We're doing making some changes to the podcast, and they are close to being put into action. Um, I've actually commissioned some artwork. I've
Yes,
commissioned animation. I've
yes.
commissioned music. So we're going to have a fancy intro, and we're going to have an outro. We have a lot of cool stuff that's coming. We're also going to have our very own site for the cast and a way for you to listen on different DSPs, whether it be Spotify or Google Podcasts or wherever the case may be. You're going to be able to listen to it in other places. And so I'm excited because this is going to be happening rather soon.
Mhm.
Um, so you definitely want to be up on all the stuff that's going on because the cast is only going to get better. We have a lot of plans, just future speaking stuff. We have a lot of plans in terms of possibly Patreon, merchandise, like just a lot
Merch.
of cool stuff. A lot of cool stuff. And I kind of want you to be a part of it. If you rock with us. If you don't, it's okay. But if you do, you like what you hear, feel free to subscribe, share with a friend or an enemy, so we can grow. And we will definitely let you know when those changes happen because they're going to be quick and we're going to be all over the place before you know it. So stick around.
Yeah.
Outside from that, is there any more housekeeping? I think that's it for me. I think that's it
Yeah.
for housekeeping.
Yeah. That's pretty much it. I mean, the only thing that I can say is, same thing I say every week, but be kind to animals. Okay. I'm just gonna throw that one in there. Be kind to your pet. Be kind to animals. Get your pet spayed or neutered. And don't forget to wear a mask, please. Clearly Texas and Mississippi are on some other stuff, but I would still wear your mask. Get your vaccines, people, if you're able to. I'm gonna try to get mine as soon as I can.
Yep.
Maybe I got to hook up, so might have to cross state lines, but I'm gonna try to get this joint because I can't keep having COVID scares every month because it's I've had the third one already. So anyway,
Right.
so remember, guys, like wash your hands, wash your faces, wash your butts. That's very important.
Yes.
And just hashtag don't be a dick. I'm gonna say that again. Hug a black woman. Okay, no, don't do that. I'm sorry. We don't want COVID. Okay.
Red ugly random white random black women.
Right, yeah, don't do that, guys. Don't do that. But remember the words. You said the most unprotected woman in America is a black woman. And remember that. And stand up for women. And stand up for black women. All right. That's really it. That's all I got to say. So just remember to be kind. Everyone, have a wonderful week. We'll catch you next week. Bye bye.